So my name is Nathan Hernandez. Got it. I am a teacher at the Options for Youth City of Industry Center, but I was also 10 years ago in the Peace Corps. So I'm going to be talking about the Peace Corps today. The Peace Corps is a little bit different than the other career chats that you have looked at this week, because it's not a career per se. There are careers you could um, do within the Peace Corps. Like you could be a country director, you could be a recruiter, but I liken it to like an internship or an apprenticeship, because it's only a 2-year period where, or possibly 3-year period where you're working for the federal government. So it's a little different. So what is the Peace Corps? So the Peace Corps, hold on, the Peace Corps is a service opportunity for motivated change makers to immerse themselves in a community abroad, working side by side with local leaders to tackle the most pressing challenges of our generation. So there's two very important words in this description, this definition. One is immerse. And the other one's abroad. So what the Peace Corps is, we send qualified Americans to other countries where you immerse yourself in the community. You learn the language, you work with the community, you develop strategies to identify problems within that community, and then you identify strategies to solve those problems, right? And those problems could be a varying number of different things. So the Peace Corps was started in 1961 by John F. Kennedy. And this is one of the original acceptance letters that he sent out. I do have a letter from Obama saying that I completed my service. But JFK sent out this letter, and if you look at, I don't know if you can read, it might be small, but the original nations were in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. So you're going abroad, helping people out, right? So there are 3 goals of the Peace Corps. The first goal is to help the people of interesting countries meet their need for trained men and women. This is, like I said, I had a certain set of skills. The country that I served in needed those skills, so then I was sent over there. Number 2 is to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. When other countries think of Americans, they think about what they see on TV. They think of Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Blonde, white, blue eyes, right? That's what they think. So when I was there, being Asian American, it was a constant conversation that I had to have with people, right? They would be like, where did you learn English? I was born in America. Yeah, they thought that I was one of them.
I'm using those
I
bottom
learned
shots.
English within the country, right? That I was a citizen. So, and then, we have like Hispanic Americans and African Americans. So there's always that conversation that's going to be had. So it's helping other people understand, like other people across the world, that Americans are a diverse group of people. We all have different backgrounds, right? I was told that I have a Los Angeles accent. I never realized I did until I met other people from like the South and West Virginia and things like that, where everyone like has a different accent, but it's just one of those things. And the third is to promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. So I served in Mongolia. That is going to be the second part of this presentation. And when you think of Mongolia, I guarantee you think of Mongolian barbecue at the mall, which is 100% not Mongolian, right? So that's one of those things that I'm going to help Americans understand about Mongolian culture, right? So if people served in Latin American countries, they would help Americans understand those countries better, right? So what do volunteers do? So I know this is targeted as a helping path, but there's also nature path and health path stuff that goes on in the Peace Corps. So 5% of volunteers, they work on agriculture. This is mostly in like African countries where it's kind of like crop rotation and organic insecticides and things like that, helping people with that. You have community economic development in countries where tourism is very prominent and a very important part of the economy. Like in Fiji, like they want people to help with the tourist side of that, help develop good business practices and things like that. We have education, which is what I served in. And this is mostly teaching English. English isn't the most spoken language in the world. That would be Mandarin. but it is the most widespread, right? Everywhere you go, there will at least be one person that knows a little bit English. It's really spread out. So they really want people to learn English. 12% go to the environment, and they help out with environmental things. I know in my country, pollution was very prominent in the capital. So people went there to work on helping reducing their carbon footprint and stuff like that. You have health volunteers. They go and they, hygiene practices like brushing your teeth, flossing, mouthwash. They do like washing your hands, like kind of like clinics and stuff. Because you'd be amazed about how many places like hygiene like isn't up to code, I guess, right? And then you have youth development, which is working with kids. It's kind of like if you do these things, you're kind of working with kids all the time. So you have that. So where do volunteers serve? So originally it was Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And then they expanded to the Pacific Islands, the Caribbean, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe and Central Asia. That's where I went. And then Asia. I do know that off the top of my head, I know the Philippines has a Peace Corps. China had the Peace Corps. I don't know if they still have it. Like Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, and places like that. I originally wanted to go to Latin America. I wanted to do a motorcycle ride up and down the coast like Che Guevara, but in order to serve in Latin America, you have to know Spanish. That's like a hard requirement that you have to know Spanish. So I do not speak Spanish, so that was off the table for me. So requirements. So there are two basic requirements, hard requirements. You have to be a US citizen, and you must be at least 18 years old. Those are the two mandatory. If you look it up on the Peace Corps website, these are the only two requirements that they do list. However, the process is very competitive. It took me over a year from when I applied to when I eventually got shipped out in order and start my service. It took an entire year, right? So it's a very competitive process. A lot of positions have minimum education requirements or work experience. And then, like I said, language requirements to qualify for consideration. Like Latin America, you have to speak Spanish, like 100%. You could have people of different walks of life join the Peace Corps. You could have married couples join as a married couple, right? I have friends that were 42 years old when we started service. I have friends that were 60 years old when we started service. A lot of them will be in their mid-20s, early 20s, early 30s, like I was. But it's something where if you don't consider it now, if you have plans now, it's something that you can consider on later in your life, right? That's the beauty of America. We have a lot of options, right? You could go to school when you're 50, right? A lot of places you can't do that. So there are a couple benefits to joining the Peace Corps. They offer career support for return volunteers. They help translate your field experience to prospective employers. So I did a lot of teaching, so I am TEFL certified. I will get into that in a little bit. You have advantages in federal employment and hiring benefits, which is non-competitive eligibility. So when the federal government posts the job, they have to post it to the general public, and there's certain requirements that they have to do in order to fill a position for this job. With non-competitive eligibility, if they like you and they want to hire you, they can skip all that due process. And then you could just start right away. It's a really cool thing. You only get it for a year, so you kind of have a year to use it. But it's a really good benefit. I'll get into, in my next slide, I'll have a story from one of my friends. There is a Peace Corps specific job search website that you could look for specific organizations looking for return Peace Corps volunteers. And then, yeah, preferences, organizations designated as employers of national service. So yeah. So you get your TEFL certification if you teach English. That's teaching English as a foreign language. There are graduate school opportunities. So the Paul D. Coverdale Fellows Program, it offers scholarships to over 90 universities and colleges. The one that I was looking into, but my plans changed, was there was a Columbia University, and there was like a teaching program. You would teach while you got your master's, and I was gonna apply for that and do that, but my plans changed and I wasn't able to do that. But maybe you can. And networking. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have served as Peace Corps volunteers, making for a highly active and diverse alumni network. On Facebook, there is a group called the Peace Corps Couch Surf. So if you're looking for a place to stay, like let's say in Hawaii, and someone's over there, you know, there's a chance you'll be able to sleep on the couch. I do have friends in all 50 states. I'm still pretty close with some of them. And a lot of Peace Corps volunteers will go out of our ways to meet up with other Peace Corps volunteers. So it's a really cool, like, little group to be in. I want to say little, but there's like 300,000 people that have served in the Peace Corps. So this is from one of my friends. We trained together. Peace Corps helped me tremendously to find my career path. I used two of the most powerful benefits offered by the Peace Corps. The first was a scholarship program to pursue my master's at a prestigious university. Because of my Peace Corps service, I was admitted to this university and received a partial scholarship to attend. After graduating from my master's program, I utilized the non-competitive eligibility benefit to join a very prestigious federal agency without competing for a position. So like I said, they liked her. They didn't have to interview anyone else, and she was able to get the job. So I know that was kind of a lot. I be talking fast. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask them right now. Nobody? Oh, it's in the chat? Shoot, I should probably bring that up. What we got? Oh, no, nobody, no questions. Where was I nervous to join? So the reason why I joined the Peace Corps, I don't know why I did that. So in high school, I was in Future Teachers of America. I went to a college that was, I took a program in college that was strictly for teachers. Like I took classes that were specifically to get my credential, so I didn't have to take the CSET. And then I did my credentialing program. So like for like 6 years, I was just all about teaching. And then when I finished teaching, I absolutely hated it. When I finished studying, I absolutely hated it. Like I didn't think that I wanted to become a teacher, right? I had bad experiences student teaching. I just didn't think it was the right position for me. So I was trying to figure out what I could do. You know, I spent the last 6-7 years of my life training to become a teacher, and I wasn't 100% in love with it. And I was like, what can I do with my time? Because I didn't want to start working right away. I wanted to kind of have like a gap year of what I could do. And I was like, maybe the Peace Corps would be a good thing for me. And it ended up being like the best decision that I ever made ever. Like my love for teaching grew exponentially. And then here I am. I've been working at Options for Youth, Opportunities for Learning as well for 8 years now. So yeah, I was nervous. I had a going away party. A lot of my friends and family, because it's a 2-year commitment, they were taking bets on when I would return. Like they didn't think I could handle the full 2 years of service. So they were like, oh, he'll be back by December. He'll be back, you know, they were taking bets on me. So any other questions before I move on? How was life after the Peace Corps? I will maybe touch on that a little bit later. There was definitely a culture shock adjustment coming back to America. Like when you go to the grocery store where I was serving, like if you wanted ice cream, there were maybe like 3 choices, like chocolate, strawberry, vanilla. And then when I got home and, you know, you go to like, you know, Stater Brothers or whatever, and you look at like all the millions of options out there, like I had like anxiety when it came to those things. So there was a small adjustment. But eventually you get over it and you learn to deal with it.
I have a question, Nathan.
Yeah.
I joined in kind of late, and I think some of my other students did as well. So could I kind of bundle Peace Corps along with like other branches of military?
Yes.
Are they like, would you say that you can bundle them all in? And if so, like what is the difference between Peace Corps and like going to the Army or other?
So I'm glad that you mentioned it, because when I would hang out in the capital city of my country, I would meet a lot of veterans, right? Or people that are currently serving in the military and that were on leave and they were visiting other countries. And they had a lot of respect for what we did. Because it's in the same vein as the Army. where you are leaving your family, you're leaving your country, you're going off and you're doing work for America. The main difference is that we're not a fighting capacity, like there's no combat involved. But they do have like the Marines. We were at a bar with a Marine and we were talking. He said like, because in Africa, I mean, like when I stayed, the house that I trained in didn't have running water. We didn't have, like I had to use an outhouse. Like electricity was scarce, so they have a lot of respect for what we do and our living conditions, and the fact that we're both serving the country. But it is kind of like the military, where it'll help you find what you want to do, right?
Thank you.
2 years is so it's 27 months is the total, is considered a full service time. For teachers, it's a little less because you go on summer break in June. So you only stay there for really 2 years. And there's an option for people to do a third year. And originally that was my plan. I'll get into it when I talk about my service. But I wanted to do a third year. But then certain things happened where it was better if I went back to America. But yeah, it is a 2-year requirement. I should mention that you could leave at any time. Like, I had a friend that developed blood clots in her legs, so she had to go home and leave. One of my good buddies, his dad developed pancreatic cancer while he was in service, and he really wanted to tough it out for the 2 years, but it was best if he went home to help out his family. So he left early as well. So it's kind of being like honorably discharged, like in the military. It'll be similar to that. What exactly is the Peace Corps? The Peace Corps is a federal program that sends Americans to other countries, where you live and work within that country for 2 years. Any other questions before I move on? How are we doing on time?
No, we're good. Nathan, eventually in your presentation, will you go over?
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna go over my
stipend?
country and like my daily, everything
Okay,
I did is,
awesome.
that's the second part. The first half of this is just explaining what the Peace Corps is.
Awesome.
Because it's gonna be different for everyone, right? Like everyone's experience is totally different. And I'll speak about my living conditions in a second. So are we good to move on? Yes? All right. So Mongolia is where I served. I served from June 2011 to August 2013. I was an M22. So what that means, I was the 22nd group of Americans to go to Mongolia. So every year they bring in a new group. So when I was there, the M21s were there. So I worked with the M21s in my site to help work on what they were working on, find new projects. And then when the M23s came on next year, we took the role of mentors for them, right? So every year there's a new group. So that way you're not just the only group. There's never only one group in a country, right? So this is a picture of the Mongolian countryside. That is a ger, a Mongolian ger. You might know it as a yurt, and that is the traditional Mongolian dwelling. They are nomads at heart. There are more horses in Mongolia than there are people. There are only about 4 million, 5 million people in Mongolia. It's about the size, I should get to the next slide. So my host country is Mongolia. So it is sandwiched between China and it's sandwiched between Russia. It has no oceans connected to it whatsoever, which is funny because the word for airplane is ongots and the word for boat is osendongots, which is basically water plane. So they actually had planes before they had boats just because they don't have any access to ocean. So it's just kind of a funny thing in my head that we don't call airplanes the water or sky boats, you know what I mean? Or do we? Maybe we do. But this is Mongolia. It is broken up into 26 IMAGs, which are basically states. If you see the little red circle in the middle, Erdenet, that is where I did my 2 years of service. It holds a very special place in my heart. Right, Ellery? Yeah. So when I first joined the Peace Corps, they sent me a plane ticket to San Francisco. So I took a plane, I went to San Francisco, I took a taxi to a hotel where we were put in a conference room with 60 strangers. I remember getting in line, and I remember waiting to sign my name to sign in. And there were two people in front of me that just by chance, they were next to each other in line and they started talking. And they are, till this day, the best of friends. Like they just met randomly in line, and they are like, their names are Justin and Andrew. I'll never forget them. And they are good friends of mine as well. But it's just funny, like the first people you talk to end up being like your best buds, right? So we go to San Francisco, we stay there for a night, and then we all take a flight to Korea. And then we stay in Korea for a night, and then we all take our airplane to our host country. In this case, it would be Mongolia. I remember I have the uncanny ability to fall asleep on any motorized vehicle, whether it be car, plane, boat. So I don't remember much of the flight. I was asleep for like 12 hours of it. But on the flight from Korea to Mongolia, it was about 2.5 hours. And being the studious person that I was, I studied the Cyrillic alphabet, which is the same alphabet like Russia and Ukraine use. And I studied it and I memorized the entire alphabet. I could read Cyrillic. I will not understand anything, but if you ever need me to read anything in Cyrillic, I could do that. So when we arrived to Mongolia, we arrived at Chinggis Khan Airport. So when you go to the mall, you'll notice that the Genghis Khan is the name of the Mongolian barbecue, 100% fake, not real Mongolian food. That is because the first Western countries to come in contact with Chinggis Khan were the Persians, I believe. And the Persians do not have a ch in their alphabet. So that's why they replaced it with a g. And that's why a lot of Western countries call him Genghis Khan, when really his name is Chinggis Khan, right? So that is me in the middle. And those are people that I've only known for 3 days. Look how close we are, right? We are all in the same position. We are all a bunch of Americans going to a different country. We're all nervous. So, things got pretty loose early on. We stayed in a traditional Mongolian ger our first night there. There are a lot of rules in a ger. Like you're not supposed, you see those two posts in the middle that hold up the ceiling. You're never ever supposed to walk in between those. That's like one of the rules, right? When you have parties in a ger, when you have like social interactions, there are specific places by age where people are supposed to sit, and it's in a counterclockwise rotation. Like everything is everything is clockwise, excuse me, in Mongolia. Everything you do has to be clockwise. So you like have the youngest people on the left and the oldest people on the right, right? So that's just another shot. That is your only window. So if you lived in a ger, your only source of sunlight was that little window on the top of the roof. There's no windows on the sides, right? So if you did live in a ger, they did give you vitamin D supplements because you got like no vitamin D from the sun because you're obviously not getting much light in your ger. And then this was just an example of the ger camp that we stayed at. So after we arrived in the country, we went to our training sites. So you're training with a host family for 3 months. And then they're teaching you the language, they're teaching you the customs. There's like this whole checklist of things that you have to do while you're training with your host family. This is the house that I stayed in for 3 months. Like I said, no running water. The outhouse is not pictured, but I don't know if you're familiar with what the outhouse is. It's just a hole in the ground. And then that's where you do your private bathroom stuff. That little room on the right is actually our outdoor kitchen. So in the summer, the sun doesn't go down till about 10 p.m., which was like the first real trippy thing for me. Because in California, the sun goes down around 7:30. So I remember like my first night there, the sun was going down. And I was like, oh, it's time for dinner. And it was like 11 o'clock already. So it was time to go to bed, right? This is where I lived for 3 months. This is one half of the house that I lived in. You can see that I have my little bed. I have my little closet. I have my water filter. They give everybody a water filter. Because if you've ever been abroad, you never drink the water locally, always get bottled. But they also gave us a water filter to help with that. And if you see that little bucket on the bottom left, we call that a tumpun. Basically, that's where I bathed. That's where I did my laundry. that's where I washed my face. Like whatever water stuff that I had to do was in that little bucket. So when I would take a bath, I would be standing in the bucket. To the right of me would be a steaming hot, boiling hot thing of water. And to the left of me would be a thing of cold water. And I would just have this huge ladle and I would just dip it in each to find the right temperature and then just pour it over my head. And then the water that you use to wash your body and to take a shower would be all soapy, right? It would be all soapy and like that would be the water that you would wash your clothes in, right? To save some water. So the 3 months you're living with this host family, you're also taking language lessons and cultural lessons. So this is me and my training sites. So I forgot to mention this. When we first got to the country, there was about 60 of us. And then they divide you into groups of like 10 or 12, and then they move you to different little villages. So this was my village is Shamer. And then these are the volunteers that I worked with, right, that we trained. So here we are learning the language, learning the customs. A funny thing about Mongolian culture is if you step on somebody's foot, you have to immediately shake their hand afterwards. If you step on someone's foot and you walk away, that's a sign of disrespect. And that could lead to a fight. So you step on someone's foot, shake their hand. It surprisingly happens a lot. Like when they first told me that, I was like, I never step on anyone's foot. But lo and behold, I be stepping on people's feet. And this is me and my host family. That is my host mom on the left, my host dad, and my host sister. One of the requirements on that little check sheet during training was that I wear Mongolian clothes, right? And I'm wearing Mongolian clothes right now. So training lasts 3 months. After the 3 months of training, you have a closing of, what is it? No, PST. You have a ceremony that swears you into being a Peace Corps volunteer. So we're not exactly Peace Corps volunteers yet. We're still training. But after our 3 months of training, we have a ceremony at the end. And then they swear us in. We meet the ambassador. We meet the country director. It's this whole thing. So there's this whole ceremony. And they asked us to put on a show. So me and my friends, we did a little dance. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but there's me on the bottom right next to like 6'2", 6'3", my boy from Washington and my boy from Georgia. Those are like my two best friends. Yeah. So here I am meeting on the right is the country director of Peace Corps Mongolia, and the left is the ambassador to Mongolia. And here's everyone that finished their training and that are ready to move on to their permanent sites, right? So you're living in this village with a host family for 3 months. Once you finish your service training, then they spread everyone around to where they're supposed to be, right? Based on your qualifications and things like that. So my homie, the tall guy, in the middle, he got sent down south to the desert, which is like a 16-hour bus ride. And then my friend Bryant on the right, he got sent to Hovd, which is like on the far western side of Mongolia. And I only saw him once or twice for the rest of my 2 years there because he was like a plane ride away. There was like no way I could take a bus to see him. If there was, I would. So here I have videos and stuff. So my site was Hernandez, like I said in the beginning of the presentation. It is a mining city. It is the second largest city in Mongolia. So there's a huge copper mine that is joint owned by Russia, Mongolia, and a couple other countries. So it's a very rich industrial city. Here's a video of us kind of trying to show people like what life was like in our little city. There was only about 150, 200,000 people that live in there. That sounds like a lot, but the capital city in Mongolia has about half of the entire population living in one city. So I said there's about 5 million. So there's about 2 million people that live in the capital city. And there's probably only like 200, 300,000 that live in Erdenet. That is the school that I worked at. Like I said, I could read Cyrillic. So that's the Ish Alkunbithli Neremch Teknologin Sergul. This was during the graduation of my high school students. And this is just another kind of city view of the city. It was a Soviet satellite during the Soviet Union era. So that's why there's a lot of Soviet era apartments and buildings and things like that. I think you're gonna see me in a hot dog costume like right now, yeah. So Mongolia is cold. it gets really, really cold. Like it gets so cold where Celsius and Fahrenheit become the same. It gets so cold that it's physically impossible for it to snow. Like let that sink in. Like it's so cold that it can't even snow. So when it starts to snow, we know it's getting warmer, and that's when we get excited, right? So here's a picture of Hernandez in the winter. I've had a lot of people tell me it looks like a map out of Call of Duty or Modern Warfare or something like that. But like I said, it do get cold. This is me. So you have your base layer on the left. That's your long underwear. I don't like to wear the upper long underwear because when you start walking, you start to warm up. So you try to dress slightly colder than you should be, so that when your body warms up, you're not overheating. And then you have your work clothes. Then you have your insulation layer, which is close to your body that retains your body heat. Then you have your outer layer, which propels the wind and other things like that, right? So this is me getting ready for work. So if you like here in California, we could kind of just like roll out of bed. We're ready to go. I had a whole process that I had to go through just to go to work, right? Because there's no cars. I had to drive, right? I mean, I had to walk. This is a monument between Russia and Mongolia as like a friendship thing. And my country, my city also had the largest Buddha statue in the country. So I wanted to include a picture of that. Okay, so this is where the nitty gritty of the Peace Corps comes in. We went and I lived in Hernandez for 2 years. So part of what they say in the Peace Corps is your first year should be identifying problems in the community, and then your second year should be addressing those problems, right? So my main job, I was a teacher trainer. Like I said, I went to school for 6 to 7 years trying to become a teacher. And because I had all these qualifications, my job was to work at a college to teach the teachers at that college how to teach English, right? When I first got there, it was very teacher orientated. The teacher would just stand up in the front of the class, read off a bunch of stuff, and the student takes notes. After I left, it was more student-based, like lots of activities, lots of hands-on. My teachers found that it helped the students learn English better, while also reduce their overall workload. So they completely loved it, right? So that was my job. I taught a high school class 5 days a week. I taught a college class 5 days a week. And I taught those teachers 5 days a week. So that was my main job. In the community, we identified a couple things that they wanted. They wanted more access to English speakers. So every Tuesday, we had an English conversation night where we would have a set of questions like maybe today's topic would be food. So we would have one table where you're talking about your favorite foods, and another table where you're talking about your least favorite foods, and another table talking about what food do you like to make, right? So it gave chances for people in the community to come and talk to us to practice their English. On Thursdays, we had a movie night where we would watch a movie for 20 minutes. We would pause it. We would ask questions about the movie, and then they would have to answer in English. And then we continue on with the movie. So Tuesdays and Thursdays were like our English community days. And then on Saturdays, we volunteered at the local orphanage. And that was like my favorite thing, like in my entire Peace Corps service, was working with those kids and doing all these things with the kids at the orphanage. We also did seminars semesterly on English teaching practices and other things like that. So it was really involved. So I had my day job, which was working at the school with high school students, college students, and my teachers. And then I also had my community service things that I did every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You know, you are an American living in another country, so you're basically on the job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? If I were to do anything in the public outside of my work, like they would, like the communities are so small, they know that I'm American, right away. They just like, well, that's the American that lives here. So if I did anything bad, like it would just start the gossiping, and it would just make America look bad, right? Because I might be the only American person that these people meet. So my job was to be as professional and presentable at all times. At least early on, when people get used to you and they understand you, it gets a little easier and there's less pressure and stuff. So like another thing in Mongolia, you don't throw things to people. Like you only do that to animals, right? If you they throw food to the animals. So I remember one time a girl in my class asked me for a pencil, right? And she was across the room. And my original, I'm a thrower. So I got the pencil and I just tossed it to her. Like, no, I didn't mean anything of it. And then I just remember the look on her face, like she was about to cry. Cause like I like totally disrespected. So I had to apologize and everything. And then what's funny is that at the end of my 2 years there, they found out how efficient throwing things was across the classroom. So when you walked into my classroom, you'll see kids throwing erasers and notebooks all around to each other. So that was really cool. But that was just one of those learning experiences that I had to deal with early on. So I did with the college students and the high school students, we have a lot of holidays that a lot of countries don't really celebrate, like Halloween. So I did things where, we had like Halloween parties. We would bob for apples. I would dress them up as yamamis. They don't have pumpkins in Mongolia, so we made jack-o'-lanterns out of watermelons. So it turned out pretty good, right? Here we are with the kids at the orphanage, and you can see how excited this girl looks to go bobbing for apples. But what you'll find, or what I found about Mongolian people, is that they're extremely competitive, right? So they went after it. So the orphanage was, like I said, my favorite thing to do. We taught the kids there like American games like freeze tag and dodgeball, kickball. We taught them like American nursery songs. Like the only reason I know how to play the guitar is because I wanted to teach the kids over there like American songs. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn the guitar so we can do this. So that's why I play I play the ukulele now. But that's the only reason why I learned to play the guitar, was so I could, sing songs with these kids. Like I said, we did a lot of Halloween stuff. Here are us making Halloween masks and stuff. And yeah, it was a good time. I look forward to it every week. Like if I was having a bad day or a bad work week, I was just like, oh, at the end of the day, like Saturday, that's my day, right? I get to hang out with these kids. We get to have fun. So in the summer, as a teacher, you get 3 months off, but you don't really get 3 months off, right? You are not required to, but it's encouraged that you do some kind of summer activity for your local community. So for the first year, my first summer, me and my friends, the ones that I talked about, flew over to my site and we started like a baseball camp. Because in Mongolia, the #1 sport is soccer. Basketball is a close second. I don't like the way they play basketball. When you play half-court basketball in America, when you get a rebound, you have to take it to the three-point line before you can score, right? You have to take it back. In Mongolia, they don't do that. So the other team will just get a rebound and they'll just put it in the hoop, and that just made me mad, so I never play basketball over there. But we did a baseball camp. We partnered with a couple people in America. We did this community college baseball team where every time they hit a foul ball, they would donate a ball to our camp. So we got like 60 balls from them. My mom's hospital donated some equipment, and the YMCA in Georgia, I believe, donated some equipment. So we had a 2-week baseball camp my first year, which involved, like, it was just crazy to see somebody ground such a shortstop and throw it to first base. Like, I just remember being in awe of how athletic these kids are. And then in my second summer, the summer where I was gonna leave, I took a 12-hour bus ride to my friend's village, and then he had like a whole sports festival or camp there. So we played dodgeball, kickball. They put us in teams in the beginning, and then my team finished second. So it was kind of disappointing, but we had a lot of fun. So I kind of already talked about Mongolian culture a little bit. So they are Buddhist at heart. So you'll see a lot of temples and things like that. They are very in tune with nature. A lot of things have to do with nature because they're nomads at heart. So like wherever the horses go, that's where they follow. Wherever the cows go, that's where they follow. So it's a lot of nature stuff. I'm trying to think. Everything's in threes. Everything you have to do in threes. So if you look at the bottom left, there's these, I forget what they're called, but you spin them. So you're supposed to spin them, walk around clockwise, spin them again, walk around clockwise, and spin them again, right? Everything is done in threes. When I went to the Buddhist temple to celebrate, or not to celebrate, but to honor my dad's death anniversary, the Buddhist monk handed me like a thing of pine needles in a metal cup, and then he lit it on fire, and I had to wrap that around my body 3 times, right? So everything's done in threes. This is Edgemont. So this is like the oldest tree in my original village. And then people will come here every year to do like an offering. So they'll throw like milk and then like yogurt and other dairy products. Dairy is very huge in Mongolia. And then these ribbons, these sashes are called hatiks. And those are just like, I don't know what they would be equivalent to. But like when you meet family members for the first time, you offer a hatik. Whenever you do anything, you have to tie a hatik to something. And in Mongolian culture, the first haircut is very, very important. As my students know, my daughter just had her first haircut and we went through this whole process. So it's kind of a huge deal. So the way the whole Mongolian haircutting ceremony works is when a baby reaches a certain age, they have to get their first haircut. So what you'll do is guests will cut off a piece of the child's hair and put it in a little bag. We will then present the child with a gift, usually money. And then you'll say something nice, like grow up to be a good person, or treat your mom and dad well, or do good in school, right? And then go around to everybody at the party, get a piece of the haircut, and then have well wishes presented to them. And then at the end of the day, you just shave their head because their hair is all messed up anyways. Okay, perspective. So this is the last slide, and then I'll open up to questions. I know it's kind of a lot. I'd be speaking fast and stuff. I apologize for that. But so when a person decides to join the Peace Corps, it's like picture the alpha personality of your friend group, and then picture 60 of those people in one room, right? Trying to work together, trying to do this job. And you think you're gonna make a lot of change, right? You do. Like you do a lot of work, you do a lot of good. But in your mind, when you're going to these countries, you think of it as a one-way street. Like I'm going to do this, I'm not gonna get anything in return. And that is completely false. Like you gain just as much by serving in these communities, by serving in these countries as you give, right? Like my 2 years there completely changed my life trajectory, like totally. Like I said, I wasn't in love with teaching when I first graduated from college. And then I fell in love with it, right? I was 100% sure who I was as a person. And then I got there and I had to completely restructure how I viewed myself as a person, how I viewed my morals and everything, right? It was just like, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with an existential crisis, but my first like 8 months there, like I was completely questioning everything I've done in my life, right? Like I remember going there thinking I was gonna change the world and all this stuff. And like, I've always been very competitive. I've always been about the end product, right? And then when I got there, you realize that there are certain things outside of your control and that you shouldn't stress about them, the locus of control. And you realize that the journey is just as important as the destination. I learned to cherish like small victories, right? Like today I'm taught my students a new English word, right? Instead of thinking at the end of my 2 years there, do they speak English? It was like, what can we accomplish on a daily basis? Where am I going with this? So like I said, my first like 8 months there, I was completely struggling. And the reason why I have a picture of this girl, because this girl saved my life. So I got there, I thought I was this person. I had this self-image of myself, like this is who I am as a person. And then my first 8 months there completely changed that, right? And I was just in a void. Like I had insomnia. I couldn't like, I was just very, I don't want to say depressed, but I wasn't in a good place my first 8 months there. I started questioning everything about myself. And then during Christmas, we got a lot of care packages from America. So one of my site mates in AirDNet, their mom sent like cookie cutters, like Christmas cookie cutters, like Christmas trees, snowmen, stars and stuff, and sprinkles. So we're like, all right, let's bake some cookies at the orphanage. So I remember we got to the orphanage, we prepped everything, and all the kids were decorating their cookies. And I don't know why, but I went into the kitchen, I guess to wash my hands. And then this girl in the photo, she was peeling a bag of potatoes, right? And let me mention this, I've never cooked anything in my life prior to this. Like, I don't cook. Like, my wife hates it that I don't know how to cook. Like, the first time I ever cooked eggs, I was 25 years old in Mongolia. Okay, that's just how bad I am in the kitchen. So I walked into the kitchen. This girl is peeling potatoes. And I was like, hey, why don't you come and join us and decorate these Christmas cookies, right? And she's like, no, these are my chores. Like, I have to complete them. I can't. So I was like, you know what? Give me the knife. Give me those potatoes. I will peel these potatoes for you. Go have fun. And then she runs off. And I just remember sitting there for like 2 minutes, like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I don't know how to peel potatoes. So I had to ask my friend. She showed me. It's like, all right. So I was peeling these potatoes for like an hour. I got pretty good at it. It's not that hard. I make it sound like it's the craziest thing in the world. But for me at the time, super crazy. And I remember she came back, and the first cookie that she decorated and the first cookie that she did and that she got out of the oven, she gave it to me, like, as a thank you, right? And I just remember thinking at that time, like, wow, like, here I am questioning who I am as a person, everything that I'm about. And like, I didn't think anything about peeling the potatoes, right? I just did it because I wanted her to have fun. Because some people say like true altruism doesn't exist or anything like that. But I just remember, you know what? Like, just a smile on her face when she gave me that cookie, like how proud of she was when she made that cookie, like made me feel so good inside that I just, like, whatever funk I was in for the past, 6 months, like, I don't want to say I got over it right away, but like that was like the turning point of my service and everything else. So just kind of want to share that. I just wanted to say that, these people could have just as much of an effect on you as a person as you will have an effect on them. So yeah, good story. So there are other opportunities like the Peace Corps. This is my letter from Obama. There's the JET program. If you just want to teach English, you could do the JET program, and that's just in Japan. You have the English program in Korea. If you want to teach English, you could go to Korea. And then you also have the AmeriCorps, which is the Peace Corps, but within America. So if you're interested in this, but you don't really want to go abroad or you want to go to a specific place, because I forgot to mention, you don't get to choose which country that you go to. You could have like a preference, but they'll place you where they think your abilities are best suited. So they thought my abilities were best suited for Mongolia. So that's why I went to Mongolia. Like, I didn't choose it. I didn't even know it was an option. I originally thought I was gonna go to Turkmenistan, just because like the way the dates match stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Turkmenistan. And then when I got my acceptance letter and they said I was going to Mongolia, I was like, what? That was completely not on my radar. And then I did a bunch of research and yeah. All right, any questions? I know that's kind of a lot and I kind of talked for a long time. I apologize for that. How did managing money work by having a job teaching? Okay, so basically they don't pay you directly. The Peace Corps pays you, and they give you just enough money so that you could live like a normal citizen of your country. So it was kind of a discrepancy. So like my friends that lived in like the smaller villages, there wasn't opportunities. We called it country rich. There wasn't much opportunity to spend money. So whenever we would meet in the city, they would have like all the money because they would just have it saved up because they didn't do anything for 6 months. Where I was in the city where there's like opportunities to eat at restaurants, I had more fruit options, I had more vegetable options. So I was constantly running out of money. But that's just a poor execution on my part. Oh, so I don't teach abroad anymore. I teach at OFI-OFL. The Peace Corps is only a 2-year commitment, but I do have friends that are still in Mongolia today. Like, I have a friend that's been there for 10 years. I don't know what he does. I think he was a journalist for a while, and now he works for I think the Red Cross over there. But teaching abroad is one of those things where, like, you have a powerful tool that you don't realize you have, and that's the ability to speak, write, and read English, right? And a lot of countries want that. So if I could, my original plan was to, I had a bunch of plans, but then like I got engaged and I got married and I was like, I have to start this family, right? So like my original plan was to stay a third year. And then when I came back, I was interested in doing like the JET program or teaching in China. But my plans changed, so. But you can make a career out of it, teaching abroad.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Peace Corps provide like some sort of health care?
Yeah. So for your 2 years there, everything is covered. Dental, medical, your living conditions. You don't have to, if you're smart with money, you don't have to spend a single dime while you're there. So like if you get injured and they can't treat you in country, they'll send you to an international hospital in a different country near you. So for us, it was Thailand. They had like an international hospital in Thailand. So there was always a running joke that you wanted to get injured enough or they send you to Thailand, but they don't send you home. So that was just like a running joke. What program is that? Which one? How much time did you have to learn about Mongolia after learning is where you've been? So I found out in April that I was going to Mongolia and I was leaving in June. So I had about 3 months, but a lot of Facebook groups and things like that, they said, try not to worry about learning about your country. Enjoy the last 3 months that you have in the States, and then you can figure all that stuff out when you're there. So I did a little bit of research. I researched their food. I realized that they really like milk and stuff, and I'm like partially lactose intolerant. I don't know if that's a thing, but milk doesn't handle well. So I had to like mentally and physically prepare myself that I was going to be drinking a lot of milk. So I bought like a lot of lactate pills and things like that. The one that covers your expenses, the Peace Corps. While you serve in the Peace Corps, they will cover all your dental, all your medical, all your health expenses for the 2 years while you're working. And then when you come back to America, they also extend that coverage for a couple of months, I believe, while you readjust to American life. Let's see, how much did you learn about Mongolia? Where am I going? Any other questions? Whoa. Is there age card? You have to be at least 18 years old. But like I said, so one of my friends, when he graduated from college, he was 22, and he immediately got a coaching position at the University of North Carolina, where he coached diving for 21 years. So from 22 to 43, he was the diving coach, and then he just got tired of it. And then when he was 43, he was like, I'm just going to join the Peace Corps before I commit to another job. And then he joined at 43. I had another friend who he recently got divorced, and his kids were worrying about him. Like, you need to do something to kill the time. So he's like, all right, I'll just go live somewhere for 2 months, for 2 years. Can you stay longer in your country than a million? Yes, you could. There's an option to do a third year. Like my original plan was to stay a third year working at the orphanage. Like that was what I wanted to do, but I got engaged and I decided to go back to America. So that kind of.
Nathan, did you already cover how you met your wife there?
What's that?
Did you already cover how you met your wife there?
No, I was gonna. No.
Keep that a secret.
So, I'll mention that. All right. So I still speak Mongolian today. I'm very much Mongolian. How often were you able to contact your family in America? I was lucky enough that my city had like internet cafes and like a lot of opportunities for using the internet. So I would maybe once a week message them. I did have internet at home, so I was able to contact them like every day if I wanted to. Talk to them every day. My mom did send me care packages like once every 3 months. I remember one time she sent me 3 boxes of white cheddar Cheez-Its, and I ate one day, the second one the second day, and the third one the third day. So that's how much I missed white cheddar Cheez-Its. I did meet my wife in Mongolia. She was my host sister, so I did stay with that family for 3 months. And then my host sister was there. She spoke English. She kind of helped me out a little bit, and it just kind of developed into a thing. So now we have 3 little Mongolian kids running around. That's why I said my daughter just had her hair cutting ceremony like 2 weeks ago. Cut her hair.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Nathan, for
Yep.
participating in our career chat. I think all the kids loved having you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hearing me talk about Mongolia for an hour. I appreciate it. Anytime I can talk about my Peace Corps service, I'll do it.
If any of you are interested in pursuing, the Peace Corps, please contact me and I can connect you with Nathan.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks again.
3 vertical dots and then